Welcome back to the New Era podcast. Today we're sitting down with the amazing Katie, founder of Internal Glow Up Academy, to tackle something that I hear about all the time from entrepreneurs, and that is mindset struggles. Whether it's battling self-doubt, dealing with burnout, staying consistent, or feeling paralyzed by comparison, these challenges hold so many business owners back. Katie's here today to share actionable strategies to help you through those mental blocks, build resilience, and create a mindset that sets you up for success. So whatever you're doing right now, sit back, drive on, and multitask, but let's dive in. So Katie, thank you so much for obviously joining me today. I am so excited to have you here. I feel like one thing this podcast has been missing is something to do with mindset, because so many business owners come on here and they're brilliant. They've got amazing journeys, but we all suffer with like one major thing, and that is our mindset.
Yeah.
So on that note, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Thank you so much for asking me. I mean, you asked me like a week ago.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, let's go.
I literally messaged you in Dubai, and I just watched my Fringe, and I was like, oh my God, I need to voice note you.
I just found this mindset person. So my name is obviously Katie. I'm a mindset coach. So I do NLP and subconscious reprogramming on business owners. So every single sort of mental block that comes up for business owners, so like imposter syndrome, fear of failure, fear of success, overwhelm, people pleasing, every single mental block, and we remove that subconsciously, like limiting beliefs. From their childhood, so they can actually push past that block. Because a lot of people, when they start being more successful, they start slowing down, or they start getting overwhelmed, and it's like all these emotions and limit beliefs come in to block them from their potential. So we remove those, which allows them just to freaking explode.
Just go for it.
Explode, yeah.
What was it that got you into that?
I feel like I've told this story so many times. So originally, when I was at school, you know, when you feel like, well, obviously I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with this, is like not feeling like you fit in at school. I always felt like I never fit in, never felt like I was good enough, but I always knew I had potential, like so much more potential than like what I believed about myself. And struggled with an eating disorder, like hit like rock bottom, you know, the standard. So I started journaling every day. I reached out, got a therapist, started journaling every day about what life would be like without an eating disorder, which sounds really sad, but that's what I did. Started journaling about self-worth, everything. And then I obviously wanted to start a business, because the high achiever in me was like, I'm not made for the 9 to 5. That's not for me. But I was like, what business should I run? And then someone was like, it's right in front of you. And I was like, so then that's when I made my journals. Opened up to a load of people on YouTube and like helped them through a YouTube series called 10 Ways to Shift Your Mindset for an Internal Glow Up, hence the brand names, Internal Glow Up. Had loads of responses of people like who were saying like, you've helped me so much. Like I've now opened up about my eating disorder to my mom and everything. And I was like, right, this is it. So made the journals, sold the journals, went to university, studied neuroscience and psychology, made some other products, whatever. And then it got to end of university, which was last June. And then I had 3 months, and I was like, well, if I don't do something in these 3 months, if I don't make something in these 3 months, then I'm going back home. So I invested all of my savings into a mindset coach. Because my biggest problem was my fear of failure. Like I knew I had the potential. I knew I had like the ability to be successful, but I didn't believe it. And it was that belief and that fear that I had. The minute I removed that with my mindset coach, so removed the beliefs, I'm not good enough, everything, I fucking flew. Like I went off, like I got from 0 to 10K months within 3 months. Obviously now built a team, run events and stuff. And then obviously became a mindset coach off the back of that. But since shifting, my fear of failure was like the biggest pivotal moment for me.
Amazing. So when you obviously took that step to go in to get a mindset coach, what do you think it was in you that made you do that?
Because I was like, right, I've got 3 months. I knew I wasn't meant for a 9 to 5. Like when I was revising at school, I'd have like a job, like a part-time job, and I'd go to my dad. I was like, Dad, I need to revise now, so I can't go to work. And I would like call in sick. I was like, I just knew I was not meant for that. And I always knew I was meant for more. Like I just knew it, something inside me. I was like, I just am that person. But that part of me, that high achiever part of me was like, yeah, you're that. But then the other part of me was like, yeah, but you're not good enough. You won't make it. You'll fail. You won't be successful. And I struggled massively with future anxiety. So like predicting the worst outcome, like predicting the fact that I will fail, I had to get a job, So I had that 3 month pressure, because I wanted to become a mindset coach. I had 3 months pressure of like, well, I have to do something about it. And I invested everything. I couldn't even make the next month back of the investment into my mindset coach.
Really?
All my savings from like my christening all the way up to, and I rang my dad, I was like, Dad, I've invested into a mindset coach. He's like, okay, love, we'll sit down and talk about it. I was like, I've already done it. Because I knew, because obviously parents like, oh, it's a bit risky, sit down. And I didn't want to be talked out of it. And I was just, I was always that kid that like, I knew I was like meant for more. So that changed my life like massively.
Do you know the way you just said about future anxiety? Is there like different types
of anxiety?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anxiety is like the feeling, right? It's a fear, isn't it? So you have your limiting belief at the bottom. So let's just say, we'll go through two. So let's say I'm not good enough, right? You have your limiting belief, I'm not good enough, which drives thoughts of I can't do it. What's the point? It won't work for me. So let's just say things go wrong in business. That belief gets triggered. I'm not good enough. And then you start thinking of all the worst things, business owners like, oh, it's not working. I shouldn't do it. I need to just give up. Very negative. That drives fear or avoidance. And then that's what drives like procrastination, scrolling, because then they can pass blame onto the fact that they haven't tried rather than they've tried and failed, and then that confirms they're not good enough. Yeah. So that would be like one sort. And then another sort that we see a lot in more successful business owners is they're like on it. They reach a certain level and then they get this massive fear of overwhelm.
Yeah.
And like they feel so many overwhelming feelings. And if you think of like the emotion overwhelm, just as things are going well, overwhelm comes in.
Yeah.
And then what happens when you're overwhelmed? You can't do anything.
Yeah.
And overwhelm is literally coming in and going, look, you can't handle it now. So how the hell are you going to handle more growth? So let's put loads of things on your to-do list. Let's leave everything till last minute. Let's stress for the sake of stressing to keep you in the current position so you can't move forward. And that's what we call fear of success.
Got you.
Because it's like past that level, it's like too overwhelming. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I've got you. Because I think if I apply it to my own scenario, like I always sit there and say I don't get overwhelmed, but then there'll be times and I'll be fine. And the next minute I'll be like, oh my gosh, I don't know what it is. But you just feel like there's just something there and you're like, I think I'm overwhelmed, but I'm just overwhelmed that there's lots to do. Even though you're doing it, you feel like that list is just continuous.
Yeah. And I find a lot of business owners are addicted to there's lots to do. Yes. Obviously there always is lots to do. There's never going to be nothing to do in business ever, and we have to be okay with that. But a lot of business owners will sabotage themselves into there being lots to do. So they'll remove the timeline. They'll like reduce the timeline. They'll be like, right, this needs to be done next week. They'll like scroll in the morning and then they'll leave it all till late at night. And then they get this pressure of like, oh, there's a lot to do. Well, yeah, because you haven't done it all morning. You've been procrastinating, And it's just self-sabotage themselves into overwhelm, which then keeps them stuck. Do you know what I mean?
So what would be like your top advice to get over that, to stop doing that?
Firstly, with like moving through things like this is recognizing your pattern. And you'll notice a pattern that comes in every so often. So it might be as things are going well, that pattern then comes in of like, oh my God, we're going too fast, slow down. And then the overwhelm comes in. So I'd notice when the pattern comes in, I would notice what behaviours you are doing that's keeping you in overwhelm. So, when people like tick off the to-do list and then they'll add some more onto their to-do list.
Yes.
And then it's like, well, you've done your to-do list that you originally thought out that you wanted to do. Now you're adding more in and that's getting you into overwhelm, and then that keeps you stuck. So it's acknowledging like the behaviours that are getting you into overwhelm. Another one is like leaving things till last minute, or like just catastrophizing tasks and like listen to your language. That would be the first one is just noticing that. And then it's like, if you look at overwhelm as an emotion, it's like, what does overwhelm need? Usually people resort straight to comfort. Like they'll go and scroll because it's to get you out the emotion. But the biggest thing you can do is just do the thing that you are overwhelmed about.
That it's interesting when you say about the to-do list, because I don't it's like my to-do list, I always do my to-do list the night before. So it's always there. So in the morning, if I've not done that to-do list,
you don't know what you're doing.
I am chaos the next day. Have to do it the night before. It has to be in my notes. I've tried Notion, I've tried CRMs, and sometimes I can stick to them, but I always find that my notes, that's something I can tick off. But if I find that I don't do my to-do list, or there's things I've not done on it, I'll start to add the things that I have done to my to-do list.
Validation. Feel good.
But then I still think sometimes you go, okay, well that makes me feel better, but I'm like, oh my God, but there's so much that still needs to be done. No, that's interesting. So how do you personally manage like your day and things to make yourself not get overwhelmed?
That's a good question. So one big thing that I do is I have a list of every single area of my business. So like sales or like team stuff or one-to-one or content, And then I write that list out into separate like categories, like I've just said. And then I will, let's say, future pace for the next 6 months or next 3 weeks or whatever, however long that needs to be done. And I'll take those categories and be like, right, that doesn't need to be done for another 3 weeks because that project's coming in like 6 weeks or something like that. And I add things to my calendars in blocks. And then on a day, I will then take that work block or whatever it is, and then break that into a to-do list.
Got you.
And then tick it off, because a lot of people go, oh my God, I've got to do this and this and this, and they state the project that they've got to do, but you're not getting that whole project done in a day, are you?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like you catastrophize it in your head, which gets you into overwhelm, when actually, if you can spread that out across your calendar over the weeks, right, okay, that part can be done this week, that part can be done next week, I can delegate that to X person, I can lean on support, which is what a lot of people don't do because they want to do it all themselves or control it all themselves, and then break that down into lists. That's usually what I do.
I see that a lot with like coaching right now. I see a lot of people that, one, they hate the time block, like, because I can't stick to it. So they'll say, right, I've got my to-do list, I've put things in my calendar, but they still don't stick to that.
Yeah.
So they'll end up doing something else, or it'll be like, I need to get the kids from school, so now I've not done that.
Yeah. But a lot of that is avoidance. So if like I can't stick to it, I always say that's like an ego kind of excuse. Like time management. I have poor time management. I don't have time to do it. It's usually sort of your ego making you feel better about the fact that you're just not doing it, because if you fail, if you do go all in and you fail, well, that probably confirm that you're not good enough.
Yeah.
So the avoidance comes in to sort of protect you from doing it. You'll see a lot of people who start cleaning throughout the day when they're meant to be doing a task. Let's say you're meant to be doing a difficult task to move your business forward. Let's say it's making content and you don't like making content or whatever. And then instead you go and clean. If you think of the act of cleaning, it's literally to get quick tick, sense of achievement, isn't it? So to their ego, they like still feel good about themselves, but then they actually haven't moved forward in their business.
They've not done the task that they actually
And that's why they feel
done.
frustrated at the end of the day, because they're like, I don't know why I haven't done it. But in the moment they felt okay by cleaning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does make sense. I think, yeah, it does really make sense. I'm thinking about my mum at this point. I'm like, all my mum does is clean when she does, when she's got something to do.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Okay, well, going back to fear of failure.
Yeah.
So I think that is something that so many business owners obviously struggle with, because we take so many risks every single day.
Yeah.
And obviously you've been through it yourself. Now, why do you think we fear failure? Like, we've obviously had that courage to go for it, or we've got these ideas. What do you think it is that kind of holds us back?
Yeah. So I always say there's like two parts of you. So there's like, you've got the high achiever part of you. And as an entrepreneur, like everyone has that part of them. It's like, it's almost like a proving part of you, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, I need to like be someone, I need to build this big business. Like I want to be successful, and you go all in. So like when business goes well and you know, let's just say you get a new client and then you're like, oh, I can do anything. Why the hell was I in that mood yesterday? Like I'm amazing. I can do anything. There's nothing I cannot do. Let's go. And you're hyped. So you respond to that sort of emotion. Then when something doesn't go so well, you have the other part of you that comes in. And that is like the self-doubt or fear of failure, whatever. Self-doubt comes in and it's like, you can't do it. What's the point?
Yeah.
And that's because that part of you, and I always like to think of them as like little stick men, like that part of you doesn't deep down believe that you're good enough, like deep down, or doesn't believe that you are worthy, or doesn't believe that you are something, or whatever the limiting belief is. And that's when that gets triggered. And that's when you start avoiding things, because that feels uncomfortable. That's where the procrastination comes in.
Yeah.
It's like avoiding going all in, because that part's like, well, no, don't go all in, because if you go all in and you fail, well, you're not good enough. And it just comes from childhood. So a lot of people, this part of you, and this is what we rewire that part of you, so you're not spending 50% of your time procrastinating. So you can act on this high achieving part of you. So this part of you comes in from like a lot of people, like let's say your parents split up when you're younger and you're 7.
Yeah.
And you watch your parents split up, or arguing or shouting or whatever at each other, and you're 7 years old, you watch your parents split up. As a 7-year-old, you can't rationalise that, oh, mummy and daddy are just having an argument because they've had a stressful day at work. You don't think like that as a 7-year-old. Subconsciously, you take it on as your fault.
Yeah.
And then that makes you believe that you're not good enough. It's the same with people who get picked last for netball at school.
Yeah.
I get picked last, therefore no one likes me. You make it mean something about you. Then that gets programmed into your mind. So then when you get picked over another coach, or someone like, let's say a client picks another coach over you, or let's just say that that client says no, or it like triggers that part of you from your childhood. Because we're just made up of all of our experiences from childhood, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it triggers. So it's like that fear of failure part is just that part from childhood. So another thing to just remember is like that part is literally coming from childhood. Like it isn't you. Do you know what I mean? It's an experience that you've been through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does make sense, because I think a lot of like where I am today is a lot because of my childhood. So like my family, my mum and dad went through a divorce, got bullied in school, left school in year 9, like, was homeschooled. Like there's a lot of that where that like pushed me in business to be like, no, you've got to figure this out.
Yeah.
And you've got to make it work. But then I think the more I did, like when I hired a team, I was like, oh my gosh, now I need to look after these people as well. It's not about me anymore.
Yeah.
Like but I just kind of, you put everything together. So it does, that is bonkers. That everything comes from childhood.
Yeah, it does.
Do you think I feel like in business, you are right. So a lot of people stress about their childhood, and then growing up, they apply them scenarios and just automatically kind of think the worst.
Yeah.
How do you think people get around that?
Subconscious reprogramming.
Just all from reprogramming. Like, how would you reprogram someone though to like rethink in a completely different way? Because obviously there's a lot of people that say, oh no, this is just the way I am.
Yeah.
This is how I was born. I've always been like this.
Yeah. So those people, they're gaining something from saying that.
Yeah.
So for example, like a lot of people say, oh, I'm always just stressed. Like that's just who I am. I'm just stressed. And maybe they gain like validation from being stressed. So when they're stressed, they tell everyone they're stressed. And then someone's like, oh my God, you're so hardworking. You're always stressed. They gain validation from being stressed. That's what keeps them in stress.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Because they've constantly got something to do, and they constantly go on about how much they've got to do.
You'll see it with people that are like, oh, the first thing they'll say to you when they walk in, oh, I've been so busy today, da 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 da. You don't just say that for no reason. Like it's obviously subconscious. It's automatic that you're saying that, right? But you don't just say it for no reason. It's like your subconscious is like, validate me. I'm really hardworking. I'm really successful, to fill that void of not being good. Because if you think about it, it's like they attach their worth to how hardworking they are.
Is that like when you finish your sentences with things where you can't, like, I always say things. My dad said to me the other day, will you stop saying in a sense? And I'm like, what? And like, you keep saying in a sense, like you're not confident about what you're saying. And I was like, now I can't stop saying it because I'm hyper fixated on it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of other little things I'd always say. My friends do it as well. And I sit there and I go, stop saying that because you're not confident in what you're saying.
Yeah. It's like people overcompensate.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
Do you think even with, like, for yourself, you know all of like the right things that people should be doing? Do you ever find yourself still getting a little bit overwhelmed with things? Because at the end of the day, you're still growing a business as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So the first thing for me, I always have a mindset coach.
Yeah.
Throughout my whole journey of business.
Yeah.
And that's why I've collapsed a lot of times. So I've only been in business about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And every single block that comes up, I'm on it with my mindset coach. I'm like, this block's come up. So when I first overcame my fear of failure, I flew. I went all in. No procrastination, like nothing. I was like, because I believed it was possible for me. So I didn't need to avoid it because I knew I was going to make it. And that's when that belief came out. And then I started attracting people because they bought into my belief. Then I grew pretty rapidly. Was like hiring and stuff like that and delegating whatever. And then I hit this like new fear of losing it all.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I started slowing down. I started sitting in low mood because when you're in low mood, it's really hard to take action, isn't it? Yeah. It feels horrible. I started like, not looking after myself, all that kind of stuff. And it was this new fear of like, well, if I carry on growing and I carry on going all in at the rate I am, what about if I lose it all? That drop is a lot worse than me sitting in low mood and sitting down here and controlling the outcome.
Yeah.
So then obviously I went through that with my mindset coach, looked at the belief that was driving fear of losing it all, obviously went back to childhood, rewired that, but also started creating evidence every day. So I learned how to delegate better, learned how to sort the back ends better to support and hold my growth.
Yeah.
Also learned that rest also equals success.
Yeah.
So I could actually keep recharging so I could sustain growth and not burn out and then think, fuck, how am I going to hold this all because I'm burnt out, and just create evidence every day. So so I do experience every single thing that every other business owner experiences.
Yeah.
But I just have a mindset coach to help me through it. And it just collapses that time a little bit because instead of spending like 50% of my time in overwhelm, I've removed the limiting belief so I can't handle it, which drives overwhelm. Yeah. Which then reduces overwhelm. So I'm not spending that time in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've got you. So
it's been game changing for a lot of business owners.
How do you do you know how to identify where you're struggling then? Because there'll be some business owners that think everything's fine. So it's even like the people that say I've always been like this.
They can't recognize it.
Literally, I work with some business owners where I'm like, oh my gosh, like come on, like, you've got to let loose. Like, just give me a little bit. But they're not identifying certain things that have gone wrong or certain things that they need to work on. How do you know when to identify that, when something needs fixing?
That's so NLP is like neuro-linguistic programs, a lot of language. So I could listen to someone speak about the business and I could probably tell what they're going through, but my job is not to tell people. It's to ask them questions. So for example, they'll come into a one-to-one session, be like, right, what's going on this week? They'll be like, I've started procrastinating on content.
Yeah.
And I've been smashing content, smashing it, and I've started slowing down, or I'm not replying to leads.
Yeah.
So I say to them, okay, if you were to put content out there and you were to reply to leads, what would happen? They're like, I will grow, of course. So I ask them, okay, what's bad about growing? Consciously, we want growth, right? Of course we do. I was like, what's subconsciously bad about growing? Like, I'll be more overwhelmed. Okay, so you can have success. So if you have more success and you're overwhelmed and you can't deal with it, what would that confirm to you? And they're like, oh, well, I can't handle it. And then it's like, that's how I find the problem. So I take their behaviours, play it out in an ideal scenario, and then sort of work out what their thoughts are, work out what their beliefs are, and then we shift that belief subconsciously. And then that's when the behaviour is removed after the session. That's when they go back and reply to leads and they keep going on this journey, because remove that block.
Yeah, so
that makes sense.
No, that does make a lot of sense.
It's very complex. This is why I've had to do the event and things like longer form stuff, because it's getting this across. It's not like fitness coaching where you know what fitness coaching is. Do you know what I mean?
It's I'm guessing it's all about like pain points, isn't it? But you've got so many different pain points that you could be talking to, especially if people don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's the first. We've got to build that awareness first.
Yeah. I guess the best part is that your audience, you could work with anybody.
Yeah.
So it's not as though there's no barrier to entry with who you can work with, but it's actually making your audience understand that, oh, I actually need that.
Yeah.
And people are stubborn.
Yeah.
So people will be like, I need
the
that.
The more successful the business owner, the more stubborn they are.
Oh yeah, 100%. I know for a fact that sometimes, like, I wake up every single morning and I'm like, there is nothing in this world I cannot do. Yeah. I got it printed on my bank card just so I could like reinforce it. And constantly I say to my little sisters, there's nothing in this world that you cannot do. And sometimes I wake up and go, I can't do it.
Yeah.
But we are stubborn. But I think you kind of have to put this brave face on that with you being a business owner and having a team, sometimes it feels like you're not allowed to have a bad day.
Yeah.
Because you're carrying so much. I'm guessing you feel like that as well, though.
Yeah. It is difficult with a team, because like when I was sitting in that low mood before the event and struggling with fear of losing it all, had all that new fear, it's like dealing with that emotion and those feelings whilst still getting leads, still running a team, But that's the exact reason why I had a mindset coach, because it's just like, it's just that release. It's insane. So
if someone's obviously looking for a mindset coach, which is exactly what you do, what would they have to look for in a mindset coach to know that it's the right fit?
Me, not joking. I asked someone this. I asked, like, what was it that made you come to us? And I think the biggest thing, and this can apply to all business owners when you're a service-based business owner anyway, so like a hack is embodiment of what your ideal client wants. So I'm always one step ahead of my ideal client in terms of I'm running these big events, taking these risks, like which is what my ideal client wants. Or I can confidently take time off, which is what my ideal client wants. A busy business owner who's always stressed and burnt out can't take time off. Little things like that. So I think, or like confidence in the way I speak or whatever. So I think from a mindset perspective, because I sell mindset, I embody a good mindset. Or if I have a problem, I embody how I can get over that mindset problem. Yeah. And so then you've got the skill as a coach, but you've also got the embodiment, and that's what draws people in. Yeah, I know. So I think if you could get a skilled mindset coach, but also someone who's in your position that you want to be in. Yeah, exactly.
So you can look at them and say, 100%, that's what I want to be like.
100%. Like if I was to get a mindset coach and she was always stressed all the time or struggling to run her own business, like, you might be able to help me, but you haven't got the full, like, do you know what I mean? It's like that embodiment, that's where it aligns. And that's what helps you attract clients as well.
I think looking at you actually running a business, that is something that people could relate to.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, she's a business owner.
She's going through it herself.
This, but she's also vulnerable in saying when she struggles as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I think if you were someone that was like, I'm perfect all the time because I'm working on myself, you'd be like, how are you doing it? Yeah. So do you find that there's like, because if I look at what I struggle with, I don't really struggle with procrastination, only because I can recognize now when I do procrastinate.
Just do it,
but like I would have, like I used to. But I feel like I suffer more from burnout now. Yeah. But I never used to believe in burnout until like I'd look in the mirror and go, you look like shit. God. So when I was, I remember when I was doing my GCSEs, I've got my nails done since I was like 12, and my nails would literally be hanging off, and I'd be like, I can't do anything because I've got to revise. And my mum would always say, when it comes to exam times, you just look awful because you completely let yourself go because you're like, I can't do anything else other than this. Yeah. And then sometimes I get myself into this, thing where I'm like, okay, I'm constantly working, so I don't give myself any time for me, like at all.
Yeah.
But I'm okay because work's doing really, really well.
Yeah.
And then I look in the mirror and go, I'm not.
I
don't think I'm
not.
okay. But do you find that people, like, burnout's like a massive,
Yeah,
a
oh my
massive
God.
thing?
Yeah, 100%. And again, I see it with the more successful business owners because they're it's proving, burnout is proving, right? It's like, let me prove how hardworking I am.
Yeah.
Let me prove how successful I am. And I'll only feel good enough, or I'll only feel like I am something, or I'll only feel like I am special, or whatever the lack is, when I'm working hard.
Yeah.
And therefore you only feel good when you're working.
Yeah.
So how do you ever feel good without working, right? And what I see is it actually holds a lot of successful business owners back because they hit a level and then to their mind it's like, well, I'm already working these many hours. If I want to grow any more, there's no more hours in the day. So how am I possibly going to function and be okay and have good mental health and maybe keep my relationships or whatever with more success? And it's like, it's a fear, again, burnout's like fear of success. It's like you can grow, but you might burn out. So it's like you can grow, but what will you lose? Time with friends, time with family,
Yeah.
And your subconscious cares more about your needs than it does success. Because your subconscious is designed to keep you safe, right?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting.
And that's when people start slowing down when they get really successful because they're like, if I carry on and I'm already burnt out, there's no way I'm going to manage more.
Yeah, I think I do personally sit there sometimes and I'm just like, oh, there's just so much to do, but I just keep adding. And then I'm just like I love it. But then sometimes I'm like,
of course,
I think I am just addicted to work. But then like my downtime is always with family. So like if I need to switch off, I'm like, right, I need to take my sister somewhere. And that's the only time I'll switch off. But now they're 12 and 13. I've got two little brothers as well. Or a little brother, sorry, and a little sister and an older brother. But they're all interested in business now. So my little sister who's 12 was like, I really want to become an appointment setter. So I was like, right, okay, let's sit there and let's figure it out. Amelia wants to make tote bags. And I'm like, right, okay, let's figure it out. And like, now there's no downtime anywhere.
Now I have 5 businesses.
Literally. But I think I'm kind of instilling that in them as well, though, that they want to do something.
Yeah, good
do something else. But it's hard.
Yeah.
Well, what advice would you have to, like, for business owners now? So I know it's quite broad, but like what general advice would you have to kind of motivate business owners that feel like they're struggling?
God, that's a broad question.
It is broad. Give me 3.
Okay, if we touch on burnout first.
Yeah.
So a lot of people won't take rest until their body forces them to take rest.
Yeah.
And so let's just say that you've worked, and then you're burnt out. So let's say you're burnt out for like a week and you have a really slow week. You start scrolling in bed. You snooze your alarm a lot. You start comparing yourself to everyone, whatever you do when you feel like shit.
Yeah.
If you think about the action of scrolling, it's just your mind trying to force you to rest. Some people get ill.
Yeah.
And it's just your body and your mind saying, stop, like rest. So I always think if you're going to burn out anyway and you're going to have to rest by scrolling, why don't you just take intermittent rest in between and then you never burn out? And then guess what? You get to work and enjoy the rest rather than work and then hate the rest because you're scrolling.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like actually having that confidence in taking time off, knowing that taking time off actually helps you be more productive and keeps that consistency within growth.
And believing that you're not going to lose it all in that
exactly,
time.
Yeah. A lot of people create evidence that they are going to lose it all because they spend half their time in burnout.
Yeah, no, I can see that because I'm guessing a lot of people will say, well, if I stop, there's no time to stop. But you are stopping on the time.
But you have to stop when you're scrolling or you have to stop when you're snoozing your alarm. Like you will, and a lot of people are resistant. They're like, no, I never stop. I'm like, you do. People scroll, people procrastinate.
Yeah.
People do that, but they wait until it's too late. And then their body forces them rather than them confidently doing it. So I would say like planning time when you're confidently deciding, no, I am deciding to have an hour here or half a day here going shopping and actually enjoying the money I make, you know?
Just something for you. Just being able to eat, not at your desk, like go and eat in the kitchen.
Just breathe.
So he did come into me the other day and he was like, are you eating at your desk? I was like, no. He went, there is because there's food left on your desk. I went, yes, 2 days ago.
I haven't cleaned up after myself.
I was like, you weren't meant to see that. I was like, you never go in my office.
Yeah.
Give me 2 other things.
Okay.
Do you self-sabotage? Because I feel like a lot of us kind of like sit there and we just ruin ourselves. Like we spend the most time with ourselves, but we talk to ourselves like shit sometimes.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So again, self-sabotage is like that unsafety around the next level because it's stopping you from doing the things that get you to the next level. So what would I advise for that? I would try to understand, and this is hard if you don't have a lot of self-awareness, but try to understand why you're self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
So is it, it's difficult, but if it's like, I'm self-sabotaging because if I don't, so just assume that you don't self-sabotage, right? Let's just say you grow to the next level, but then your mind associates the next level with losing people.
Yeah.
Then that's why you'd be self-sabotaging to keep you in this level.
Yeah.
So I try and understand, okay, what is it about success that my mind hates? I consciously love success, but what does my subconscious hate about success? Yeah. What will I lose if I'm successful? What will I not? So a lot of people fear that they'll lose comfort. They'll lose like friends, family, time. As a lot of people feel that they lose time. And then it's like, okay, how can I have that now at this current level of success so I can continue creating safety, that I can have time and success, I can have family and success, I can have calm and success. Do you know what I mean? It's like, how can you create safety in having both? That would be that one for self-sabotage. Probably it's understanding why you're doing it. A lot of people don't understand why they do it.
I think it all comes down to a lot of that, isn't it? It's just not understanding any of it.
And that's the problem we're trying to solve.
It's figuring out when it gets to that point what is actually going wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's been like a perfect roundup of everything that you can get out. What's one piece of advice you give to yourself?
God. That you probably will always do better than you think you will.
Yeah.
And therefore don't underestimate, like don't put a cap on anything.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to be like, oh, I'd only get that many signups, or I only get that many people come see it, but it's like not putting that.
But years ago you wouldn't have had any of that.
But yeah, like I fucking started last year, like what the fuck?
Exactly.
So probably a bit more of like that, I don't know, whatever you call that.
It's hard when you have to do it for yourself and you have to sit there and go, oh my gosh, what would I say to me?
Probably more allowing myself to see my own success, because it's very easy to chase the next thing as a business owner and not allow yourself to see your own success. Obviously I talk about it and I'm like, yeah, I've done this and done this, but it's those moments even in the day of like, oh, like even success to me last year was being able to go to the gym when I wanted to.
Yeah.
But now it's like, how can I run the biggest event ever? But it's like,
go to the gym
and do everything else. How can I get my dream car? So probably allow myself to like see my success a bit more. Probably.
Amazing.
And enjoying it.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I have loved it. And we're going to be doing another episode, but for social media managers and agency owners. So I'm excited for us to get into that as well.